Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Come on. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory. Worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord, thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the years and you washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious. High and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the treasure of heaven, see bright. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. We bring kings of glorious heart, bearing gifts we traverse apart, hills and mountains, foreign mountains, following yonder star. Oh, do you see the star? Do you see the star? Do you see the star? Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leaning, still proceeding. Guide us to thy perfect love. Is there anybody here who loves my Jesus? Yes. Is there anybody here who loves the Lord? I don't know about you, but you don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, all of my best friends here, she left me for a young man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson. So.
Judge, those,
We're gonna let you do both of ours, because we don't have spouses then. My wife is working, I'm gonna get down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know.
You're gonna be two for one, okay? And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
Yes.
Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you.
here, she left me for a younger man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson, so.
Well, Judge,
We're gonna let you do vocal vows, because we don't have spouses then. My wife is working, I'm up down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know what
two for one. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
being the Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, hill and mountain, foreign mountain, following yonder star. Oh, do you see the star? Do you see the star? Do you see the star? Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding. Guide us to thy perfect
Is there anybody here who loves my Jesus?
Yes.
Oh, is there anybody here who loves the Lord? I don't know about you, but you don't know.
I'm just gonna be honest, all of my best friends here, she left me for a younger man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson, so.
Well, Judge, those,
We're gonna let you do vocal vows because we don't have spouses then. My wife is working, I'm gonna get down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know something.
two for one. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J. Johnson, Jr.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace J is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's a high honor. Something I love about.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Yes. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Come on. Is yours. All yours, Lord, I give all the glory. I worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord, thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the years and you washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious. High and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the treasure of heaven, see bright. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. We bring kings of glorious heart, bearing gifts we traverse apart, hills and mountains, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, do you see the star? Do you see the star? Do you see the star? Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leaning, still proceeding. Guide us
Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson, so.
Well, Judge, those
We're gonna let you do both vouchers, we don't have spouses there. My wife is working, I'm gonna get down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know.
You're gonna be two for one, okay? And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor. Something I love about
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
Yes.
Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Come on. cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb, seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious. High and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the treasure of heaven, seat bright. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, hill and mountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, do you see the star? Do you see the star? Do you see the star? Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding. Guide us to thy perfect Is there anybody here who loves my Jesus? Yes. Is there anybody here who loves the Lord? I don't know about you, but you don't.
I'm just gonna be honest, all my best friends here, she left me for a younger man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson, so.
Well, Judge,
We're gonna let you do both vows because we don't have spouses there. My wife is working, I'm gonna get down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know.
two for one. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this day, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
Yes.
Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Come on. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory. I worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord. Thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the years and you washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns.
Is there anybody here who loves my Jesus?
Yes.
Is there anybody here who loves the Lord? I don't know about you, but you don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, all of my best friends here, she left me for a younger man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson, so.
Well, Judge,
We're gonna let you do both vows because we don't have spouses then. My wife's at work and I'm up down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know.
You're gonna be two for one, okay? And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this over. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor. Something I love about
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
Yes.
Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Help me, Lord. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory. Worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord, thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the death years and you washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious. High and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the treasure of heaven.
All right now.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Yes. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Help me, Lord. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory. Worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord, thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the years and you washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious. High and lifted up, Jesus, Son of God, the treasure of heaven, see bright. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. Weary kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse apart, hill and mountain, foreign mountain, following yonder star. Oh, do you see the star? Do you see the star? Do you see the star? Star of wonder,
man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson. So.
Well, Judge, those
We're gonna let you do vocal vows because we don't have spouses then. My wife is working, I'm gonna get down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you do vocal.
Two for one. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Benton and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this oath. And at the end, ask that you will listen to it carefully and reflect upon it. And although I give it to you collectively, it does apply to each of you individually. And at the end, if you can swear or affirm you will abide by its terms and conditions, will you please say, I will. So with that, I ask you to raise your right hands. And gentlemen, if you would respectively say your names, I, and repeat your name,
Horace J. Johnson, Jr.
being citizens of Walton County and being the employees of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered to such employees, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that each of you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Georgia, and that each of you do further swear that you will administer justice without respect to person and do equal rights to the poor and the rich, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent on you as judges of the superior courts of this state, according to the best of your abilities and understanding, and agreeably to the laws and Constitution of this state and the Constitution of the United States. You do further solemnly swear and affirm that you are not the holders of any unaccounted for public monies due this state, or any political subdivision or authority thereof, and that you are not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, nor of either of the several states, nor of any foreign state, and that you are otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the constitutions and laws of Georgia and the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and that you have been a resident of this circuit for the time required by the Constitution and laws of this state, so help you God.
So help me God, I swear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If you will sign here, then. Okay. I don't know if you all know this or not, but Judge Horace Johnson is also the president of the Council of Superior Court Judges. That's an honor.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you.
Yes.
Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb, seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns. You reign victorious.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today on such a grand occasion as we are here to celebrate the life, the legacy of Judge Horace J. Johnson, Jr. It is a privilege today to stand here, and it is an honor to stand here and to know that his legacy will forever live on in Newton County. I want to stand to welcome you on behalf of the Johnson family, all of Newton County, the Board of Commissioners, the Alcovy Judicial Circuit, our Chief Judge, the Honorable Judge John M. Ott, and of course myself, Chairman Marcelo Baines. Again, we just want to say it's a privilege to be here for this grand occasion as we celebrate the legacy of Judge Johnson. We're going to have an invocation today by Dr. Lynn Pace, the chaplain of Oxford College, the presentation of colors by the Honor Guard of the Newton County Sheriff Office, the Pledge of Allegiance by the Honorable Sheriff Ezell Brown, a musical tribute by Maestro Raymond Hammond, the occasion by the Honorable John M. Ott, Chief Judge of the Alcovy Circuit, protege tribute, Attorney Kevin Gooch, partner at Harlan and Knight. Appreciation will come from the family, the mother, sister, sons, and the love of his life, his wife. Then we will have a video serenade. Following that, we will have the introduction of the speaker by Chief Judge John M. Ott of the Alcovy Judicial Circuit. Following that, Judge Ott, following the address, Judge Ott will come again, and also he wanted to present a special gift to Miss Michelle. After that, we will have a prayer. By Reverend Ralph L. Thompson, Columbia Drive United Methodist Church. And then following that, we will do the unveiling. And then we'll have the sending forth by Pastor Eric Wendell Lee, Springfield Baptist Church. Please come in that order.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chairman Baines. I hope you can hear me okay. Before I invite us into a spirit of prayer, I send my greetings and the greetings of Oxford College to the Johnson family especially. Wherever any of you are right now, in person or virtual, as you settle into this moment of invoking, maybe you will join me as we recall a moment when you were sharing a story with Judge Horace J. Johnson, Jr. For me, it would most likely have been on the Oxford College campus where he is a graduate. And for me, it involves a big smile on his face with a deep, memorable, warm laugh. With your memory and that image of that memory in mind, I invite you now to join me in prayer. Let us pray. O God, source of life, giver of every breath, we come with grateful hearts, grateful for the gift of this day, grateful for all the ways we are together right now, grateful for the Johnson family, for the ways they nurtured Horace and the ways he nurtured them. We are grateful they shared him with the rest of us. We give thanks for this county, this community, its leaders and its residents. We give thanks for the work that takes place in this building and how that work keeps us safe, how it reminds us of the need for your never-ending grace, your ongoing wisdom, and your sustaining love and guidance. Today, we are most grateful for the life and the light of your servant Horace J. Johnson, Jr., son, brother, husband, father, faithful churchman, pioneer, leader, judge, friend, keeper of a bright smile and a full laugh, child of God. On this day, we ask for a special blessing on his family. Keep them in your care, O God. Remind them of his ever-present love. May his legacy and the way it reverberates in this community hold them when grief comes and the way feels too narrow. Shift our focus now to this building. Though not new, let it be known by a new name henceforth. May the work that happens here and may all who move through its halls be forever reminded of the name it now bears. May we and they be reminded not just of his name, but of his faith, his wisdom, his deep love of this community, of his sheer presence. Be with and among us now wherever we are, Holy One. May we, like Horace J. Johnson, Jr., seek to love and serve you in all that we do. And may those to whom love is a stranger, may they find in each of us a generous friend on this day and every day. Be with us now and send us your blessing. For it's in your holy name I pray. Amen.
can we all stand, please, for the presentation of the colors? You may be seated. Thank you.
All right now.
Put your hands together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yesterday,
All right now. Go ahead, Horace.
how can you smile when your world is tumbling down? I said, here's my secret. When you wanna cry, take a look around and you see that I've been by, and you hold on. Change is coming, change is coming. Hold on. Don't worry about it. Hold on. For you can make it. You can make it. Hold on. Everything will be alright. Say it one more time. Yesterday,
All right, all right.
a man said to me, how can you smile when the world is tumbling down? I said, here's my secret. When you wanna cry, just take a look around and you see how I've been by, and you hold on. Change is coming, change is coming. Hold on. Don't worry about a thing. Hold on. You can make it. You can make it. Hold on. Everything will be
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mama.
like to run away from all the pain inside. Now it's your business.
Come on now. Come on now.
Whatever you wanna do, but when it don't work out, boy, here's what you gotta do. Just hold on. Change is coming. Change is coming. Hold on. Don't worry about a thing. Hold on. You can make it. Hold on. Everything will be alright. When the troubles of life
All right.
weigh you down,
Mama.
just keep your head up. Yeah. When the love you seek is hard to find, don't give up. Just be strong. Keep the faith and hold on. Change is coming. Hold on. Don't worry about a thing. Hold on. You
My.
We have to double spray because I got to take this off. I'm very honored to be here today for my friend Horace. And if I call him Horace, I mean no disrespect during this. I know he's Judge, but I knew him as Horace. I got to thinking on this occasion what we're doing here. What made Horace the man he was? We all liked him. Everybody liked him. What made him that way? And I'm going to tell you one word: family made him that way. We're fortunate to have Miss Lottie here, his mother. And you just think back to the time that his mother, Miss Lottie, his father, Horace Sr., they themselves were community leaders. They themselves were loved in this community. And that's one of the first things I ever learned back in the 80s when I first came into this circuit, of the legends of Miss Lottie and all the work she did in FFA. And the long service of his father in the school system as an educator, and what he brought. And you think about them raising Horace and Yvette, his sister, raising them in this family of love. And what was most central in that family is what was most central in Horace's life: the church, God. He was raised in the church. He was raised at the knees of Miss Lottie and Mr. Horace. To have those qualities that we could all see in Horace and what made him so well liked. He had a church sense and family sense of humility, humbleness. But it wasn't a humility or humbleness that was born out of insecurity and low self-esteem, which it can be sometimes. His was just the opposite. It was a humbleness brought about by a sheer confidence in himself, a positiveness that Miss Lottie and Mr. Horace imbued him with, and the church taught him about. One of service to others in his whole life. And that was very meaningful to him. You couldn't be around Horace, as I was for over 25 years, without him letting you know that central to his life was his family. The love of his life, Michelle, the sister Yvette, James, Bryant, that dominated most of our conversations. Miss Lottie, if he was on the bench in a murder trial or something and that phone rang and it was Miss Lottie, there was going to be a recess as he got off that bench to see what she needed and what she could help her with. He was just that way. The humbleness he had and the quality he had meant that when you met him, you were an equal. Nobody was better than him, and nobody was lesser than him. He met you on an equal footing, and that was so important in his life, in how he conducted himself. Now, I don't mean he's any kind of pushover on the bench, because I had heard and I knew that there was a sternness and a no-nonsense about him if things were going on. And I don't know about his personal life, but if we ask James and Bryant, they might be able to tell you that he could do that at home too. But of course, I know Miss Lottie was immune to that, and I definitely know Michelle was immune to that. That worked no wonders in that family. That's why this occasion to me is so profound. By the dedication of this building, thanks to Newton County and Chairman Baines, it imbues this building with an identity, a personality, if you want, a personality of integrity, of fairness, of equal justice to any citizen who walks into this building, due process of law. All of those were the attributes and qualities of Horace Johnson. And now that it bears his name, they're the attributes of this building. We are always will be hurt and miss Horace because he was so important in all of our lives. But it's comforting to recognize his leadership, to recognize his greatness that now is being embodied in this building. I thank you for being allowed to speak and make these statements. I am so grateful for this. The chairman, the sheriff who put together this, LaTanya Hamp, Tori Hammond, who worked tirelessly along with Chief Justice's staff, Marty Head, to make this come off seamlessly. I again want to thank everybody. Thank y'all.
Good afternoon, everyone. What they see is what they'll be, right? Let me repeat that again. What they see is what they'll be. That is the motto of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta, Inc., which is an organization that I've had the honor of serving for the last 2 years as the chairman of the board. And when I thought of this occasion and this opportunity to honor Judge Johnson one last time, that motto rung so true to me because young people are often limited by the experiences of those directly in their family, those in their community, and they oftentimes don't understand the endless possibilities that there are for them in their career paths and for their futures. We often imitate our parents. We often imitate those close to us. And so if your parents weren't lawyers, you don't know what that means. And for me personally, as someone that grew up in a single grandparent home with my parents 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, I didn't have much exposure to lawyers, but there was this burning desire in me to do something that I wasn't supposed to do. And I did not have a great jump shot. I'm not the most athletic guy. I could only spit about 8 good bars, so my hip hop career just wouldn't have made it. And I hate blood, so that left being a lawyer, right? And so I aspired to be a lawyer, but I had no clue what that meant. And I saw great lawyers like the Thurgood Marshalls of the world, the Johnny Cochrans of the world, the Vernon Jordans of the world, but they were like a fairy tale, right? That's not someone that I could touch and I could learn from and I could experience. And when everybody in my circle knew that I had an interest in practicing law, they all said, you gotta meet Judge Johnson. And no one that I ever came across had a bad word to say about Judge Johnson, and they all told me, you gotta meet Judge Johnson. He's been a trailblazer in this community. He went to Oxford, Emory, and UGA, which is the very path that I traveled. He had run his own law practice here, was a successful lawyer, and became a judge here. Everyone told me that I had to meet Judge Johnson. And so we had been in rooms before, but where I really met Judge Johnson was working at Wolf Camera over in Newton Plaza Shopping Center. And he comes in one day, he's dropping off his pictures, and we started to have a conversation about what I wanted to do with myself. He didn't know that I was a kid that wanted to go to law school. And so we sparked up a relationship at Wolf Camera, dropping off pictures of the family. I remember the boys when they were barely walking from his photos. And so that was my experience and how I got to know Judge Johnson. And so he helped me understand those possibilities that it was to be a lawyer, to grow, the success that you could see as a lawyer. And my legal career would not be what it is today without Judge Johnson's guidance, advice, and exposure, because through the times meeting him at Wolf, he invited me to work for his law firm. So I spent a summer working for his law firm and just following him around, learning, and he took care of me, and I learned so much from that summer because, again, I had no clue what law school was like. I had no clue what the practice of law was like. So that was me learning by fire over that summer working with him. And so without him, without those experiences, without that time spent, there would be no me, right? There would be no partner at some of the largest law firms in the world and someone that's gotten 40 under 40 awards and Leadership Georgia and been a part of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta and able to lead that organization. So that is his return on his investment in me. Because make no mistake about it, it wouldn't have been possible without him there. So what they see is what they'll be. And this motto extends far beyond just career paths, right? Because in addition to being that inspiration, he also provided guidance, leading by example, right? What they see is what they'll be. So to watch him, to watch his selflessness and investment in others, and there's story after story after story of people that he invested in. He shared the goodwill that he had earned over decades of practicing law and being in this community with me when I work with him. I mean, there are examples of his nephew, Chris Gilmore, Judge Johnson calling me saying, hey, Chris is a lawyer. You need to meet him and take him under your wing and work with him. And Chris, he followed me as the president of the Emerging 100 of Atlanta, and now he's a member of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. And like, there's an example of watching how Judge Johnson invested in others, was selfless, always found the time, and how that inspired me to do the same thing. And the stories that you hear are just so heartwarming. One of our members, Joseph Wilson, is a young attorney practicing law. He was out here practicing in front of Judge Johnson, and Judge Johnson had done his research. And so Joe was in his courtroom, and he's going up against a seasoned attorney. And Joe said Judge Johnson called him out and said, weren't you just in the Daily Report a couple weeks ago for this big verdict you got? And pointed that out in court. And Joe was like, that gave him the confidence to really go hard in this courtroom against this more seasoned lawyer that he was going up against. And so you just hear so many examples of things like that. And, folks are just forever grateful for those experiences. What they see is what they'll be. The love of his family, right? He taught us all, love your mama, love your wife, love your kids, uplift them, build them, honor them, respect them. And you couldn't help but follow that example, right? And, the Lord's still working on me, so I'm working on that. But you couldn't help but follow that example. And so many others did follow that example. What they see is what they'll be. He walked with the utmost humility and integrity, as you heard earlier from Judge Ott. He was never too big to connect with anybody he came across. He would always give you time, give you guidance, give you advice. He always treated everyone with respect. You didn't know some of the great things that he accomplished because he was just a good person. And I think that sums it up best. He was just a good person. And finally, what they see is what they'll be. His commitment to the community is why we're here today, right? I don't know how he found the time to do it all, but he found it some way. He was involved in every community organization you could think of, And he was fully committed. I can't tell you how many times he called me about helping out the Washington Street Community Center. He roped me into being on the board of counselors at Oxford College. I wouldn't have been a part of Leadership Georgia without him pulling me along to get me into that organization. And there are just many other examples because he was fully invested in the community, building the community. You build through individuals and you build it collectively. And so by him setting that example, I follow in those footsteps. And so thank you to Commissioner Baines, the entire commission for doing this and this community, for this very fitting tribute to a giant that we've lost, but he will always be fondly remembered. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today, and I hope that I continue to honor the investment in me the proper way, and I'm forever grateful for every moment that he shared, and grateful to Michelle, Miss Lottie, the boys, for allowing us to steal those moments that will consistently pay back what he invested in us. So thank you very much, and thank you for this moment.
There you go. Go ahead.
Horace was the and I just dropped my thought. That's okay. But thanking you for understanding, because when you reach 90, you will better understand why and how. Horace was a spirit. And again, Mr. Bain, I can, in my mind's eye, I can see Horace with his big grin stretched from one side of his face to the other. And this he always did when he approved of what was happening. And he is very happy that this has been done. And as I say, he was a spirit that he exhibited each day of the 61 years of his life. He was a spirit. And that's the way I think of him. I really do. He was devoted to caring for everyone that he met, and for every opportunity that he did have in life. And borrowing some, rephrasing some words from the 100th Psalms, his memory will always be remembered for what he has done. He will always be remembered from to generation and generation. And we just want to thank all of you for being here. Love you from the depths of our hearts. Thanks again.
That was good.
I'm like you, Judge Odd. I can't do this mess and speak. Wow, this is wonderful. Good morning, everyone. The price of success is hard work, dedication to the job, and heart and determination that whether we win or lose, we have applied the best of ourselves to the task at hand. I'd like to read a quote from our former president, Barack Obama. One voice can change a room. And if one voice can change a room, then it can change a city. And if it can change a city, it can change a state. And if it can change a state, it can change a nation. It can also change the world. Your voice can change the world, and it already has. Thank God for our parents, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and our mentors, Mr. and Mrs. T.K. Adams, who are here today with us, for all of their sacrifices. Thank you, City of Covington. Thank you, the Sand Hill community where we grew up, Newton and Walton counties, the state of Georgia, for allowing my brother, Horace J. Johnson, Jr., one voice.
back in this room again in such a more of a joyous occasion. I think as I put today's ceremony in perspective, you kind of got to think about, how we got here today. And a lot of people talked about, his upbringing. We all spoke to his values, but when you kind of think about how he grew up, for him to be among the first to integrate a school right up the street from here at Fickwood Elementary, and then to be standing here today celebrating his name on a building speaks to the gravity, obviously, of this occasion, but even more importantly is a testament to two things. The man he was and all the love poured into him from Newton County. And so, I won't dwell too much on the man he was, only because everybody here knows that, and we wouldn't be here today if he wasn't that man. And so, but to the point about Newton County, and him reciprocating that, and which was poured into him. Judge Ott spoke about him being raised by two public servants and how he followed in that path and what it means to be the selfless man he was. And so, my appreciation today goes to Newton County, the city of Covington, for embracing him and allowing him to serve this entire community and wanting to give back to here first. I mean, he could have done it anywhere else. He had opportunities to go and practice elsewhere. He probably could have been a judge elsewhere, but he wanted to do it here. And I think that's a true testament to how the people around here in this community along the way believed in him, embraced his efforts to show how much he cared for the people who raised him here, and even more importantly, at least more personally, how he instilled that in myself and my brother. So I just want to say thank you to all of those along the way who touched him, especially here in this county, in order to help him be the man he was, in order to help him be selfless, man of integrity, and the man that who made my brother and I into who we are today. So thank you.
So the last time I got to speak about my dad in front of these many people, those watching it in this room today, was 13 years ago. In my middle school, Cousins Middle School, Black History Month program. And he was the keynote speaker, and they told me, Brian, we need you to share what it feels like to have your dad be Judge Johnson. Well, for me, he's just a man. He was just somebody who didn't pay me for working outside in the yard, would always tell me to practice patience because I would talk myself into trouble, thinking I could talk myself right out of that same trouble. But he also was somebody who told me to value relationships and see somebody as no different than who we are, right? We know not who is in our midst. It could be from the janitor to the CEO of a Fortune 100 company, but every single one of them has value, and we must see the value in that person and shake hands hard, look them in the eye, right? And his favorite saying was to dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. So in spirit and appreciation today, I give appreciation to you, Daddy, for why I stand, excuse me. I give you appreciation for why I'm able to stand here the day I am, to put on the clothes that I have on today, to talk about the greatness that you are and forever be enshrined here in Newton County. We forever will love you. We forever will recommend you to the greatest, highest esteem. And as I started, again, 13 years ago, I was asked to talk about my dad in the spirit of Black History Month. And I find it fitting that we are doing this again today as we celebrate him as a man not just of his people, but a man of something much greater. So thank you all again.
Hello. That touched my heart, you guys. You're not supposed to make mom cry. That's great. Thank you all. Chief Justice Melton, Chief Judge Ott, judges, and welcome new judges, and also special successor to Horace's seat, Judge McCamey, Commissioner Baines and your board of directors and staff, Sheriff Brown, your team, your deputies. And we also appreciate the city, Mayor Horton, and the city council. Thank you. So many of you have done great work, and to make this happen today, and our hearts are warmed and we are elated for this honor in honoring Horace. So I have a little different perspective, so I'm going to give you a peek behind the curtain of who we all know as our friend Horace. Of course, you know him as Judge Johnson. As his wife, I know him as Horace. I'm wearing red today in honor of the day that we met. We met at a holiday gathering, and actually, I mean, just to be honest, it was a Christmas party to throw down and have fun. And we were actually introduced by a very dear friend. And that introduction was also complemented later by a yummy spaghetti dinner. But at that party, so there are 4 words that I want to highlight in describing him. Persistent, insistent, intentional, and love. So the persistent, when we met, once I met Horace, he blocked everybody else who was trying to talk to me. There was this accountant that was trying to do his rap to me, and Horace wasn't having it. We actually went outside on the deck because it was a house party, and we talked the rest of the night until it was time to leave. I was in the process of relocating for work, so I had my things already on the moving truck, and I had 5 days left in town. He called me every day, and I was like, who is this guy? I mean, every day. And then some people say, well, did you stay? I was like, oh, you don't know me very well. I just met this guy, you know. He was persistent. Fast forward 4 years, he proposes. I don't remember saying yes, but we did get married. Persistent. Yeah, so here, right. And then he said he wanted to have children. And we were living in a very nice townhouse that his mom had decorated beautifully, but it was nice, but it was small. And so I hinted at the fact that it'll be nice for our children to have a nursery. I didn't say it quite that way, but that was the gist. The next thing I knew, we were building a house, and we were moving in right before James was born. Persistent. His practice then continued to grow, and as the boys started to grow up, and they developed in school, he insisted that they be educated in Newton County schools. Now, I was a city girl, and I had not been to Covington before, although my dad, turns out, interviewed in Newton County and potentially was going to work here. But he insisted they went to school in public schools in Newton County. And we are most grateful for the experience. I must say, I was nervous, not so much academically, because they were challenged, but socially, because I wanted to make sure that there were people that looked like them in leadership roles. And so it was a journey, and I'm very proud of our school system. We talk about it all the time. When we talk about James and Bryant's success, their success was right here in Newton County, because they always think that they went somewhere else. But I say no, they had a great experience here. And so he insisted. And we rolled our sleeves and did what we needed to do as parents to be fully involved. And that was before the STEAM school. So James mentioned Ficklett, that's where they went to school. That's where Horace went to school. And it's amazing how things have come full circle. So a few more insist. He insisted to have dad time with James and Bryant. He insisted on Sunday FaceTime when they moved away and started their careers. He insisted on having date night with me. He insisted on worshiping together. He didn't want us going to church separately, Pastor. Though sometimes, schedules were crazy. But, and he also insisted on eating at least one meal together every day, because we also knew everybody's schedules were crazy, but at least one meal together. The other term, intentional. He was intentional about his relationships. He was masterful at developing relationships, and I learned so much from that. He had wonderful relationships at church, at work, friends, community. I mean, his friends loved him, and people loved him. And you just didn't see that all the time. He was intentional about his prayer life and his prayer group that they met weekly, but prayer life daily. He was intentional about his Saturday visits with his mom and his sister every Saturday, but also gave me a chance to get my hair done without him fussing. He was also intentional about eating oatmeal every Saturday. Every Saturday. That's when he had oatmeal. Also, he was intentional about working out at the Y with Judge Wynn. They would change and walk over or drive over to the Y from here. He was also intentional about reading the newspaper every day, and then I know the many newspapers he would collect in the office, and any time that we would go on vacation or go to one of the judge's retreats, he would have a stack of papers that he'd had to catch up on, but he read every one. Love. He loved us as a family. He loved God. He loved representing Newton County, Walton County, his community, the state of Georgia, in whatever role or capacity that he served. He loved the organizations, Washington Street Community Center, the Arts Association. He helped founded Newton Mentoring, helped with the Boys and Girls Club. He loved Kiwanis, Leadership Georgia, and the Council of Superior Court Judges. He loved. loved his community, loved Oxford College. Anybody that knew that Horace went to Oxford, they know he loved Oxford. And then he had a special way that he would say Emory. You know, his lips would kind of perk when he said Emory. He didn't say, Emory. He was like Emory, He loved his fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, and thank you for the nod in the fraternity colors today. He loved our church. He loved being judge. And, he was free to, he loved it so much he would take out the trash, he could wear his robe. Take out the trash at home, but he would wear his robe. He loved being a law partner. When Johnson and Freeman was founded with Ron Freeman, he loved Johnson and Freeman, and Johnson and Freeman is still here today. He loved Georgia, and I learned so much about Georgia, and I learned from him more about our 159 counties that he learned from 4-H, being involved in 4-H. He was so proud of his connection to 4-H. He was a friend's friend, a lawyer's lawyer, a judge's judge, and he was the best friend to many. So many of you ask, how are you doing? And we are hopeful, we are grateful, and we are thankful for the honor bestowed upon this community with Horace's name. And what we'd like to do is continue hearing from you, and there may be the information going across your screen, but for those that are here, we have some information. We'd like for you to share your story. Everybody has a Horace story or experience, long or short. But if you will email us, we want to keep it simple, but if you will email us at media, that's MEDIA, HJJF@gmail.com. And we want your stories, and the idea of the story, not to mention it's therapeutic, but it will inspire others, encourage others to aspire and to follow their dreams. And then the legacy of what Horace pressed upon all of us, his spirit, will continue to make our city, our county, our state, our nation, our world a better place. Thank you for your love. Thank you for loving Horace, because he definitely loved you.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Yes. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Help me, Lord. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory.
Justice Harold Melton of the Georgia Supreme Court. Anybody who has a program can look at his extensive biography on the page of the program. If you don't have one, simply Google him if you got some time to read of his many accomplishments. I want to talk just a moment about another quality of his that's not shown here. Some people don't realize that years before this pandemic that we're presently in started, now Chief Justice Melton was prescient enough to realize that Georgia needed an emergency plan if a pandemic came forward. And this is years ago. And Chief Justice of the time, Leah Sears, as he approached her, said, well, you head up the commission. You get it put in place. And he had to take on that task and did a wonderful job. So as we entered into this now pandemic, we were way ahead of the game in the judicial system, thanks to his leadership. And then when you think about the whole state of Georgia judiciary, with, in some places and some judges, as ego-driven as me, he had quite a task to try to corral those judges like cats to get this plan going. And he's done it with his calm, forceful, firm leadership, because that's the kind of man he is. He's given us great leadership and has implemented that plan, implemented the things that we need to do in a court system so I can stand confidently in front of you today and tell you in the Alcovey Circuit, I've not heard of a single citizen going through our court system that can claim to have contracted COVID by being in our courts. And it's all thanks to Justice Melton, his leadership, and his plan and his kind of firm control. So it's a great honor for me to have him come, and I know the family really appreciates him taking time out of his day to come out down here to give us our message. So let's please welcome Chief Justice Harold Melton.
Thank you, Judge Ott, for those kind words, and thank you for your leadership in this circuit. To Chairman Baines and other local elected officials, to Sheriff Ezell Brown and Sheriff Joe Chapman, members of the judiciary, Miss Michelle Johnson and Miss Lottie Johnson, and members of the family and the clergy. It is an honor to be in your presence. I want to say congratulations to you. I want to say congratulations to you for having sense enough to name a building after our friend Judge Horace J. Johnson, Jr. You had the wisdom, you had the foresight. I'm sure it was an easy decision. This is a man we all knew, it's a man who we loved, and why not name the building after him? So I love it, and I'm glad to be here for this event. I want to do some things with you, share some thoughts with you during this time, go over some things and make sure we all are on the same page about what's going on here today and what this means and what you have done by this decision. Of course, we named this building after him. You have named this building after him, a man who served in this building and has worked here, and this was his source of outreach to the rest of the circuit. But I'm hopeful that we'll have an understanding, and maybe you do, but I think it's good to at least say this out loud and make sure when we leave here we're all clear. So first point is, in my mind at least, this is not a building dedication. The reason why I say that is because we had a building dedication in 2018. I know that because I was here, and Ms. Johnson was here. Many of y'all were here. Justice Clarence Thomas was here when we spoke. We have video evidence of the fact that this building has been dedicated. And when he dedicated this building, he said a number of things, and one of the things he said, for example, was that in our great country, the judiciary is not the puppet for those in power, nor is it the engine for the pioneering social change. He said, rather, it's the safeguard against tyranny and an assurance of neutral arbiters for those seeking the protection of the law. So that's what he said during the dedication. And in my way of thinking, it's like being baptized. You don't need to be baptized again. So we've had the dedication, so we could check that box. But whatever it is that we're doing here today is something different than what we did before. And I believe that by putting his name on this building, it's something bigger and bolder than even what was done before. And what was done before was, in fact, a big deal. And it set us forward on the commitment that we already had, a commitment to justice, a commitment to the rule of law. And so his name's going on the building, but this building has already been dedicated for that purpose. And let's talk about that so we understand how big it is to go even beyond. This building's dedicated to justice. What is justice? Well, most people don't really define what justice is. We march for it, we insist on it, we demand it, but we don't really know what it is. I was called upon to describe what justice meant one time, and I said, why me? And they said, well, it's in your title. I said, well, that makes sense. And so I started wrestling with the idea of what is justice, what is justice. I came up with some very long definitions, but unlike many things in the law, the more I played with the idea, it got shorter and shorter and shorter. And ultimately, it came down to 3 words: justice, the right response. The right response. It came down to 3 words. Give you an example of how that works. Let's say you have 2 small kids, a boy and a girl, they're playing with a toy. And you see one of the kids take a toy from the other. The boy takes the toy from the girl, for example. What's the right response? Should I pick up the boy who took the toy and throw that child out the window? That would not be justice. I think we all would agree. What if I did nothing? What if I didn't do anything at all? Well, that wouldn't be justice either. So figuring out what is in fact the right thing to do, well, that could be hard. What are some of the things you might want to know to figure out what is the right thing to do? Well, you might want to know that all I need to do is look at that young child sternly, and that's all I need to straighten that kid out. I may need to know that it takes more. You might want to know that he took it from the girl because the girl took the toy from him. There's a lot that you might want to know. So I say that to say that we already are committed to something big in this building. Because to do justice day in, day out, case after case after case, takes wisdom, it takes discernment, it takes patience, it takes understanding. But we're already committed to that here. Everybody in this courtroom, all the judges, all the people that serve this court are already committed to that. So what's different about putting just Judge Johnson's name on this building? Let me give you a hypothetical. If I were to say to you, Judge Johnson was one of my closest friends, I bet I could start a fight. Because deep down, all throughout this room and anybody else that's watching, there are people who are sitting there thinking, no, he's really one of my closest friends. And we could really start fighting about who's really closer to Judge Johnson. And the reality is, Judge Johnson made everybody feel like he was their closest friend. And so there's a warmth and there's a sense of caring that's very closely associated with the name of Judge Horace J. Johnson, Jr. And then there's something else, and it's already been touched on before. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look at your program. Pull up your programs. Your program has on it 2 very good-looking, distinguished gentlemen. I want you to look at the one on the cover, and then look at the one on the inside. Look at the one on the cover, and then look on the inside. Y'all see the difference? There's a big difference, isn't there? And y'all know the difference. We all know the difference. It's the smile. It's the smile. That's what we know of Judge Johnson. We all know the smile. There's some say, no, I don't know him by the smile. Well, if you don't know him by the smile, you know him by the laugh. And that doesn't mean he didn't do stuff, because he was not just a man of encouragement and warmth. He was a man of action. But as he did the things that showed his warmth and caring, as he did the love that Miss Michelle talked about, that smile is what stood out. It's how he did it, in addition to everything else. And so let me tell you what I did last night. Last night I had the privilege of participating in a gang specialty court graduation. Cobb County's first gang specialty court. So these kids who have a history, or at least an indication they may end up in gang activity, it's an accountability court. And they had just 5 graduates. 8 kids started, tough program to get through. I don't know how many weeks it lasted, but community coming around. They've got judges, sheriff deputies, prosecutors, the defense lawyers, mental health counselors, caseworkers, guardians ad litem, and they work. They go to work with these young men and these young women. And they have homework, they have speakers, they have drug treatment, drug testing, all these types of things. And they get involved in the lives of these individuals. They get into the homes. They had over 300 home visits in the course of the period of time that they were working with these 8 kids and 5 graduates, 300 home visits. So that tells you how hands-on this program was. They've realized one of the kids had issues with learning, so they got with him and did some really intense tutoring and got the kid over the hump. One kid, during the course of their time, his family was struggling with housing. They were about to lose their home. They found alternative housing. There's some deaths that these kids experienced during that time period, some related to COVID, some related to other things. But they got involved in their lives, and when you get involved in lives, you get a little something of everything. In fact, you get a lot of everything. And at the end of the program, at the graduation last night, they had a caseworker at each of the doors. And at one moment in time, they rang the doorbell, and they handed these gift baskets. And in the gift baskets, there's a meal. There are little items. There's a speaker who had spoken to him. He had gotten some trouble before, and he has his clothing store, so he had some items of clothing in the gift basket. And they had yellow envelopes. And in these yellow envelopes was their case history. And it was being expunged. These kids smiled. They smiled. One kid danced. He looked at his paperwork, every page, and he danced. This one young lady, I won't tell you her name, she just smiled the whole time. And it was a smile that was a beam. She was beaming. She was beaming. And it was a smile of wholeness. It was a smile that said, I have really achieved something. That I'm good. A smile that said, for the first time, I'm good with who I am. I'm good with where I'm going. I'm good with who I'm becoming. Is a different kind of smile. And I smiled because she doesn't realize it, but I'm looking at her, I'm thinking this is the beginning of her beginning to be that source of warmth to somebody else. So I'm smiling. And so here's the big picture. These are young kids who, in many instances, violated the law, broke the law. This whole program started with them being arrested, handcuffs, put in a patrol car. And they walk out at the end of several weeks whole, with a sense of family, we heard that word, with a sense of purpose, with a sense of structure. They walked out with a smile. So here's my point. I believe that this building is already dedicated to doing justice, and that's hard enough as it is. Fairness to all. But we're taking a step even bigger by putting the name of Horace Johnson on this building. Even more is expected. My hope and prayer is that in all cases of all types, in ways that are expected and in ways that are unexpected, people walk into this building and feel a sense of warmth and a sense of caring. That this will be a transformational building. That somebody will walk in looking like me, walk out looking like Horace Johnson. That this won't be just a hall of justice, that this will be a hall of transformation, a hall of hope, a hall of healing, a hall of purpose, a hall of vision, a hall of families, and a hall of smiles. May God bless you all. May God bless the Johnson family. May God bless Newton County. May God bless the Alcovy Judicial Circuit. May God bless the state of Georgia. May God bless this great nation. May He continue to smile upon us all. Bless you.
Thank you, Chief Justice, for that message. I want to tell everybody that when an official wins one of these races, the governor sends out what is called a commission that outlines it. It's a very beautiful document. And last May, in our judicial races, Horace won his election. And lo and behold, they presented Horace's commission to us, and it's on behalf of the state of Georgia and the Alcovy Circuit. Now I'm very proud to present to the family his commission for the race that he won. And now I'm going to call on the Reverend Ralph Thompson, Jr. to give us our prayer of dedication.
To all of my Father's children, let us now look to the Lord, who is able to lift us up in good times and bad. And on this day, we celebrate this wonderful renaming. Let us pray. God of mercy and God of love, you who sit above the circle of the earth, and you who are the Chief Justice of the universe, we have come to this space that is dedicated to justice for all. For you said in the word through your prophet Isaiah in chapter 61:8, "For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing." You gave the prophet Micah a mandate when he asked, "What does the Lord require of you?" To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And Lord, on this day, as we remember and honor your humble servant, Judge Horace J. Johnson, Jr., whose love for Christ and community was evident in his words and deeds. We declare that this space that bears his name will reflect justice tempered with mercy and will serve as a connection point of righteousness in this community. We declare that as Horace loved you and treated all that he met with equity, that here in the Horace J. Johnson Judicial Center, justice will indeed roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. And we declare that in this place, that never will justice be denied, but that justice will be served, and that righteousness and peace will kiss each other. We declare in your name, the name that is above every name, the name that calms fears and soothes doubts, the name that lifts the lowly and lavishes love on the least, the last, the left out, and the lost, that it shall be from this day forth, henceforth and forevermore. The people of God said amen, amen, and amen.
I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for the role they have played in this great celebration. It's a privilege and an honor has been bestowed upon Newton County. Guys, our ceremony is going to continue outside. The deputies are going to come in and they're going to give us our dismissal orders. Thank you so much.
Say it again. Okay. Say it again. Okay. Turn the mic off. I can hear you. Can you mute yourself? I just heard you come through the truck. Turn the mic off. I can hear you. Can you mute yourself? Bring the audio down just a little bit. Check. Okay. Let me know if I need to turn it up. I don't see the feed on the truck yet. Okay. Let me know.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you. And I love you. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Yes. Lord, how I love you. I love you. Lord, how I love you. Lord, just want to say how I love you. Oh, Lord, just want to say how I love you. Help me, Lord. It's yours. All yours, Lord. I give all the glory. Worship and adore. Lord, I want to give you all. Oh, Lord, thank you for this love, Lord. Thank you for the death years past. You washed me in your cleansing flow. Now all I know, your forgiveness and embrace. Worthy is the Lamb, seated on the throne. We crown you now with many crowns.
I'm just gonna be honest, all my best friends here, she left me for a younger man. Y'all laughing at me? He's real young, he's my grandson. So.
Well, Judge,
We're gonna let you do both vows, because we don't have spouses today. My wife is working, I'm gonna down on them as well, no doubt. We got a kid in college, so you know something.
Two for one. And what I'm going to do is, at the instructions of Judge Ben and Judge Johnson here, I'm going to read this oath. And at the end,
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We want to thank all of you for being here today.
Go to my video.
It's a great event. We are so excited. First of all, let me just thank a couple of people. I want to thank the great citizens of Newton County. It was taxpayers' dollar that put this building in place. I also want to thank the Newton County Board of Commissioners who actually voted to rename
Got the
the
video
building.
playing.
So with that being said, I want to also just give them guys I'm excited to leave the family up to do the release. I think it would be a great privilege for them to do that. So I'm going to ask the family if they would please come up and we will do the release. Now, following that, Pastor Eric Wendell will come. Sorry about that. Guys, I was just that wind is giving us some challenges. So we're gonna pray and hope that this thing will look like it's supposed to. But we get that down, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Forth because our work here is formidable, but it is not finished. The Harlem Renaissance in March 1929, prophetic poem, which is about achieving equality through perseverance, while also articulating African American patriotism. I too sing America. I am the younger brother. Send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, and today is tomorrow. I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, this beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Nearly 96 years later, I stand here today, validating the prophetic poetry of Langston Hughes as my friend and the proverbial darker brother. Horace James Johnson Jr. is now permanently enshrined as a contributor to American history on this, the bicentennial observation of the founding of Newton County. My task is the sending forth, the closing prayer, the benediction that leaves our hearts open to what God wants to do next. This is not an ending, but a beginning. Renaming the Judicial Center in this way is both honorable and aspirational. Honoring a memory and also accepting the challenge to live up to the integrity of that name. Name changes are honorable and aspirational. Jacob becomes Israel because it is aspirational. Simon becomes Cephas. Saul becomes Paul. The name change is evidence that there is work yet to be completed. It took 2,000 years to build the Great Wall of China, which means it takes a multi-generational commitment. Generation after generation is expected to make a contribution. The name Horace Johnson was handed down to the judge's father, and his father handed it down to him, his father and his mother. Horace and Michelle have handed it to their oldest son. Judge Johnson's father died young, and I remember fondly and eerily the year he celebrated outliving his father's age. You see, he wanted to take the name he'd been given, the charge he'd been given, the faith he'd been given, the values he'd been given to the next level. Therefore, he worked. Samuel Hall Young's poetry is appropriate here. Let me die working. Still tackling plans unfinished, tasks undone. Clean to its end, swift my race be run. No lagging steps, no faltering, no shrieking. Let me die working. Let me die thinking. Let me die laughing. Let me die loving. Our work here is not finished. Amanda Gorman's poem at the inauguration of President Joseph Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris was not entitled The Hill We Climbed. It was entitled The Hill We Climbed, because we're still climbing the same hill. There are still inequalities among us, still disparities among us, still injustices among us, because for anything less to occur from this building would besmirch the great name of Horace Johnson. We continue to work. Aspirational, that when people seek justice, that they have been provided the right response. Thank you, Justice Melton. Whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, rich or poor, mouth full of teeth, 5 teeth, or no teeth, regardless of sexual orientation, you ought to leave this building knowing that you have been awarded the right response. We've come not to play, to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. 'Tis God's great gift. Father, we come today thanking you for 200 years of the Newton County community. We thank you, God, for delivering us from slavery. We thank you for delivering us from cotton fields. We thank you, God, for delivering us to a public school system, delivering us to courts of justice, delivering us to equal opportunity. And God, where we've fallen short, may the work continue. May you get the glory, the honor, and the praise. That when sons and daughters gather at this spot in decades and yet centuries to come, that they too will have made their contribution. In the name that is above every name, the name of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Lee. Guys, there's another unveiling that we'll do in the lobby. Everybody cannot come in at the same time. We're going to ask the deputies if they would to bring us around so that everybody can see the unveiling. We'll ask the family if they would come and continue this ceremony, if you will. Please, ma'am, please, sir, please come through and see the portrait that we have on the inside. Thank you so much.
Major.
Right. I'm sorry, right?
Everyone, we are asking to issue an order, and this will forever hang inside of this building. In honor of Judge Horace J.
Proudly dedicated and lasting memory of, and with greatest respect and admiration, Horace J. Johnson Jr., Superior Court Judge, Apodi Judicial Circuit.
Oh, well, my mama has asked me to say a few words, but again, I want to say thank everybody for your love, and you for coming out and sharing this wonderful moment with us as we again find another way to celebrate the great man that is my father and a friend to many of you all. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
I think I came by, you were still the bed, you were involved in it, you saw the bed, and it's all the same. Yeah.
Lord, my heart is yours. It all belongs to you. I give you all the glory. Yes, I love you.
My.
I worship and adore. I want to tell you more. Oh Lord, how much I really do love you.